Ballerina is an action crime drama that follows Ok-ju, an ex-bodyguard who left that line of work behind and now lives a fairly quiet life. Until one day, she receives a phone call from an old friend asking to hang out, only to be met with her dead body and a note asking to take revenge on the people who drove her to committing suicide. Now, it might sound like an interesting premise for a revenge movie, but this is another straight-to-Netflix Korean movie, which usually isn't a good sign. However, considering it's from director Lee Chung-Hyun, who previously directed The Call, I was a bit more hopeful that the movie was in good hands. And as the movie opens up, we're introduced to our protagonist as she nonchalantly faces off against a group of thugs, which I thought was pretty cool up until the action begins and a barrage of close-ups, shaky cam, and fast cuts removed any enjoyability from the scene as the action and hits lacked any impact. So pretty quickly, within the first 5 minutes, I'm not really liking what I'm seeing with the action. But it's still a decent enough opening to the movie and this character, so I wanted to give it a chance and see how the premise comes into play and where it goes from there. And following this overly edited and fast-paced action scene, the movie instantly drops that momentum and slows down to highlight a sense of emptiness, alongside some visually pleasing cinematography. However, it's not long before it becomes evident that these vibrant visuals are covering up a rather dull and lackluster story. And that sense of emptiness is not only a representation of what's going on in Ok-ju's life, but also what the movie has to offer, as it's a paper-thin story lacking any depth, with a protagonist who doesn't have much of an identity or anything remotely noteworthy that makes her an interesting leading character. The main thing we need to know or see is that she had a friendship with this girl at some point in her life, as the movie will pretty frequently throw in these flashbacks of the two of them doing whatever. It feels kind of plain and ineffective, although it's easy enough to read between the lines and perhaps interpret that there might have been a romantic angle. But that's really all there is to this character, and when it's paired up with a collection of shots that appear to look nice for the sake of looking nice, I can't help but feel bored and disconnected from the movie. Even when it eventually opens the doors to something bigger and tries to appear more complex by introducing new characters and increasing the scope of the story, it all feels just as weightless as the punches being thrown. And quite frankly, I never really cared for what was happening, nor did I feel like I was even given the chance, as the movie is overly reliant on surface-level ideas and a basic level of empathy, while quite often aimlessly drifting between trying to tell a story and trying to look pretty. Unfortunately, I feel like there's too much of an emphasis on the cinematography being visually pleasing rather than being visually expressive, and I feel like Lee Chung-Hyun fails to implement this stylishness in a way that supports the story efficiently. So there's really not much on offer here, and typically, when you have an action movie with a flimsy, boring, or unfocused plot, you can at least hopefully look forward to some good action to make up for it. But there's also only 3 action scenes in the movie, and I can't say I enjoyed any of them due to how they are filmed and edited. The only thing that I somewhat enjoyed was Kim Ji-Hoon's villainous performance, as he's the only one in the movie who feels like he's actually trying to do something with his character. Jeon Jong-Seo, on the other hand, felt quite awkward to watch at times, to the point where I felt like she didn't really fit her character, which was surprising considering how great she was in Burning and The Call, and I was pretty underwhelmed with her performance and presence here. But then again, it seems like there was little to nothing for her to actually work with, so I can only imagine her performance is reflective of the weak script and bad direction from Lee Chung-Hyun. So I would not recommend watching this movie, as it's pretty much just an hour and a half of all style and no substance, and the whole movie feels empty and boring.